Now, if we want to look at a holiday that almost anyone can get behind, none quite compare to Halloween. Halloween is another holiday that I always looked forward to growing up, mainly due to diabetes. Trick-or-treating was always so fun. You're telling me I can get a shit ton of free candy and all I have to do is walk around the neighborhood at night dressed up like Buzz Lightyear?
I would have done that for free, but thanks!
In my time, I tend to see a lot more people get excited about Halloween rather than Christmas, and thus I see a lot more people celebrating it. And it makes sense why, as Halloween is definitely more accepted amongst the masses, due to it being a lot less deeply rooted in religious practices. Well, shit. Halloween has always historically been about the tie between the dead and alive, dating back to the celebration of the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. The celebration relates to the harvest season, marking the end of the old and ushering in the new. Since it was celebrated around the end of summer and towards the beginning of winter, the weather was awfully dark and cold, which was seen as prime time for spirits to be out and about. So, to avoid being disturbed by these spirits, villagers took part in donning costumes reflective of the various creatures they feared, which has been a staple tradition of Halloween ever since. Basically, an excuse to dress up and talk about ghost shit. That's the main theme behind Halloween, being all spooky and junk. And with one of the other main traditions being encouraging kids to wander around in the dark asking strangers to give them candy, I would have to agree, that's fucking terrifying. Of course, there are plenty of other staples of the holiday, one being orange squash. Carving pumpkins and creating jack-o'-lanterns is one of my favorite aspects of the season, giving everyone a chance to flex their creative side and gut out a fruit. How could you not want to do that? This tradition also goes back to the origins of the holiday, with jack-o'-lanterns often being used to ward off evil spirits with their spooky demeanor. Yeah, that would certainly ward me off. Obviously, the main appeal of this time of year is dressing up in various costumes. This is something that both the young and old do every year. It's a ton of fun to pretend to be someone you're not.
Yes, I too fucking hate who I am.
Now, dressing up for Halloween is commonplace for a reason. I've seen a ton of really creative and outstanding looking costumes out there. I've always been a fan of the more low budget Halloween costumes. I think there's a lot of charm to them, and if you know what you're doing, you can make do with what you have and still create a really fun and engaging costume. And then there's Halloween 2022 when I dressed as Ross from the TV show Friends.
Moving on.
Another common practice of the Halloween season is watching scary movies. It's a match made in heaven. Watching scary movies throughout the year just doesn't hit the same as doing so in October. I can't think of a better way to engulf yourself in the vibes of the holiday. Of course, that's taking into consideration that I'm not a fucking coward.
Ha!
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of horror movies. They are definitely not my favorite genre of movie to watch. Far from it. Now, you may be asking, okay, Antonio, is there anything you actually do like?
Yeah, I like a lot of things. For example, breathing, inhaling oxygen, having a pulse.
Don't get me wrong, I totally see why people like watching scary movies. It can be fun to be scared. It gives you a rush of adrenaline. Plus, watching these types of movies with your friends can be a great way to spend time together and rake in the spooky season. Now, for me, watching horror movies just makes me feel uncomfortable for most of the runtime, and then when a scary part comes up, I let my intrusive thoughts win.
Man, these pants could really use some piss.
I don't know. Maybe it's the specific horror movies I've watched in the past, but they're just not my cup of tea. But I'm still open to watching them from time to time. Fine, I'll add it to the list.